I am not exactly sure when or how it happened, but I've had some struggle with this day we are celebrating today. I've had a struggle with an all-powerful, can do anything kind of God. Now, some people have told me it is a lack of faith, and some have told me that that's a maturing of faith. Maybe it's both. Or maybe I've just grown weary of seeing the pain of the world, the wars, the famine, the diseases. Maybe it's one of the many tragedies that run through our lives. Or maybe it's what the psalmist in Psalm number 22 verse 2 that says, "Oh my God, I cry in the daytime, but you do not answer. By night as well, but I find no rest." This is a psalm that will be read to us later. So before I share with you my thoughts about Good Friday, I want to talk about Bad Friday. And that's the Friday that I struggle with. How are we to make sense of an all-powerful, can do anything kind of God who seemingly chooses to do nothing? That's the Bad Friday question. Now, if you think of it, Bad Friday really is our story of suffering and loss. It's the day when it feels like your heart can't break any more than it already has. It's the day you lose your loved one. It's that day when your business collapses, or you have lost your job, or a relationship has come to an end. It's the day when you are powerless to save another from their pain and suffering, and you cannot do anything to help. Now, every one of you listening to me at home could describe these bad Fridays of your life. And I think at some levels we are always struggling to make sense of them, to understand them and find some meaning. We want answers and explanations. Today is the pinnacle of that struggle. The passion narrative that was just read to us holds before us all the bad Fridays of our lives. Where is God in all this? What is God doing? Someone once asked me why Christians glory in the cross, which depicts violence, injustice, pain, suffering, and death. If Jesus' suffering and death was God's plan, does that make divine violence somehow better or more acceptable than human violence? And just like me, and perhaps some of you, this gentleman could not understand how God can be all-powerful, capable of doing anything, but chooses to do nothing. Does an all-powerful God refuse to extinguish this coronavirus that is causing so much suffering to many people? Does God simply refuse to intervene in our current circumstances today when He is actually capable of doing it? Well, I do not have an answer to that, but fortunately, I know Good Friday is not about glory in a cross that only depicts tragedy, pain, injustice, and suffering. That's not what Good Friday is all about. We do not glory in that kind of cross. Maybe the cross of Christ is showing us a different kind of God. Maybe this day offers the most true image of who God is. Now think of it. Isn't that really what Emmanuel, God with us, is all about? A vulnerable and powerless one who is among us in all ways and even suffers with us. Jesus is never more real and more human and more identified with us than he is on the cross. It's not even at his birth at Christmas. It's not even in his teachings and preachings or in the miracles he performs or even at his resurrection. It's on the cross. It is in his suffering and dying that he is most like us. It is in our suffering and dying that he is most present to us. That is what is good about this Friday. The realization that it is in our suffering and dying that God is most present to us. Of course, it doesn't make the day any easier or more acceptable, but it's all with God. The faithfulness of a God to God's people in life and in death. That's why we cling to the cross of Christ and glory in the cross of Christ. Amen.